moment, because tomorrow you might be dead.
Hello, gentle viewers, and welcome to another episode of Alistair Reviews It. Today I am going to review The Eye of the World, the first book in Robert Jordan's critically acclaimed and fan-adored Wheel of Time mega fantasy series. There's 14 books in this series. I'm not gonna lie, I bought this book way back in February 2018, and it took me 2 years to get past the prologue and the first couple of chapters. I know that this is lauded to be one of the best fantasy series of the 21st century. However, it took me a while to get to it. And this is the first book I have really gotten into where I didn't also buy the digital copy of the book to go along with the actual book. I tend to do this a lot because I get embarrassed carrying a huge tome with me everywhere, so I typically buy it on e-reader so that I can have a more discreet way of reading my books. But my secret is out. You think I'm scrolling through Twitter, but nah, I'm actually reading The Eye of the World. Actually, I need to get the book. However, I did get the audiobook because after trying so hard to get through the prologue, I was like, you know what? I have a credit on Audible. I'm going to go ahead and get The Eye of the World on Audible. I tried to get through it, but for some reason the narrators just could not capture my attention. And so I went back to the book and finally got through the first couple chapters, and then from there it was easy sailing. So let's do this thing. The wheel of time turns and ages come and go, leaving memories that become legend. Legends fade to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave birth returns again. In the third age, an age of prophecy, the world and time themselves hang in the balance. What was, what will be, and what is may yet fall under the shadow. When the Two Rivers is attacked by Trollocs, a savage tribe of half-men, half-beast, 5 villagers flee the night into a world they barely imagined, with new dangers waiting in the shadows and in the light. This review is going to be broken up into several parts with chapter times in the description box below. Now we are getting into the magic system and the world building for the Wheel of Time. First off, I want to start off by stating that Robert Jordan's first book is extremely similar to The Lord of the Rings. The similarities were intentional as Jordan wanted to create his own narrative using some of the foundation from The Lord of the Rings. I am told that the series becomes very much its own after the first couple books. My only thing is that the inheritance cycle did the same thing but has been pooped on for it. Even though I think that for the time and his experience, Christopher Paolini did an excellent job with the inheritance cycle. Hashtag unpopular opinion. So this is for as far as we know in this first book. I'm not covering anything after that because I have no clue. I have not looked up the wiki page. I have not looked up anything. Yeah, this is basically what I know. The magic system is a dual magic system consisting of the masculine, Saidin, and the feminine, Saidar. These two are derived from the one power, and both of them together are the one power. However, the masculine line has been tainted by evil. Therefore, if there is a male user of the one source, they slowly become crazy. The story starts out with one of my favorite tropes: farm boy to hero, or in this case, farm boys to heroes. There are many characters, but this book's protagonist is Rand al'Thor. The narrative strongly follows him throughout the book, as well as his childhood friends, Matt and Perrin. All three of whom are being chased by the Dark Lord because one of them is suspected of being the Dragon Reborn. The one who will come and bring back the light and also destroy the world, so that's pretty bad. They are also accompanied by an Aes Sedai called Moraine, and an Aes Sedai in the Wheel of Time is like a witch, someone who's able to wield the Saidar portion of the one source, and Lan, who is the Aes Sedai's ward, also known as Guardian. There are also 2 other village women who follow them, Egwene and Nynaeve. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please correct me. This is a story of their journey while they're trying to evade Trollocs, Fates, and other forces from Baal Zaman. Again, correct me if I'm saying this wrong. However, in between, there are many places that we visit and many other characters that we meet. Now for a quick spoiler-free review of these characters. In this book, Rand al'Thor seems to be the main protagonist. He truly defines himself as being a sheep herder. He's a boy that would oftentimes dream of adventures, only to discover that that dream was a nightmare. Dun, dun, dun. Perrin is a big, brooding beast. Honestly, so far, he's my favorite. His narrative has, in my opinion, from this book, been the most colorful of them all, and always been like interesting to read from. Matt, the third one, is a troublemaker. He is almost annoying, except for the fact that he probably has the most human reactions to what's happening to all of them, which is almost a breath of fresh air. I feel like, especially in fantasy books, fantasy and action books, people don't respond how they would actually respond in real life. You know, they respond slightly heroically, slightly like astute. But Matt responds like an actual human being would, which I actually enjoy. He makes a natural balance between Perrin's tacit nature and Rand's somewhat more reasonable nature. Egwene is the woman in town who also seeks adventure. She wants more in life than to be a sheep herder's wife. And so she also seeks to go out and takes advantage of this journey. She's a woman who's hungering for adventure and maybe, just maybe, power. Nynaeve is the wisdom for the village. Basically the female leader for the village. She is extremely stubborn and definitely used to get in her way. We only witnessed one version of her in this book, so I really hope that her character is more expanded upon after this book. Again, Moiraine is an Aes Sedai who accompanies them. Aes Sedai are very powerful but not well loved in this book. I spent half the time trying to decipher her intentions. Lastly, we have her ward, known as Lan. He is magically linked to her, which gives him some semblance of power, especially physical stamina, that kind of power prowess. He similarly is very, very, very tacit, very emotionless throughout the book. So my spoiler-free take for this book. I can tell how much effort was spent on the book. There were several chapters dedicated to miserable, wet travel, and I identified so much with these. I often think fantasy authors probably spend a great deal of time inside because whenever their characters are out in the wilderness and traveling, they seem to do it so smoothly, but not these characters. I have spent, unfortunately, a great deal of time out in the field, a great deal of time wet and cold and hungry and just never seem to be able to get dry, never seem to be able to get warm. And I unfortunately experienced that again in this book. I was like, darn. So I enjoyed the book, not as much as I thought I was going to, but I think that's most likely because the book feels more like a foundation for the big epic series. Like I think most fantasy books probably spend between 20 and 30% of the book building a foundation, where I feel that this book was probably 80% foundation, a lot of stuff to set up for afterwards. So I think I'm probably going to appreciate this book more after I read the other one. Okay, so now for spoilers. So in an odd way, I found myself relating a lot to Rand. Mostly because he's from the Two Rivers, but at least one of his parents is not from there. And therefore he looks different than all of his peers. And I identified with that because my mother is Mexican, my father's American, but I grew up in Mexico City. And I remember always looking different than my family, my friends, and even though my speech was the same, I cannot count how many times I wished that both my parents were Mexican and that I was just like everybody else. So I often enjoy seeing characters grow, especially in coming of age fantasy type settings, because they usually start out quite useless and then gather skills throughout the journey, becoming quite formidable towards the end. In The Eye of the World, we do not see much of this growth, most likely because the first book represents the first leg of the journey. But we do see the experience gained throughout the journey, and we do see the lessons that they learn, especially about hiding and keeping out of sight. That's not to discount the few skills they did acquire. For example, Rand and Matt kind of had some tutelage from the Gleeman, a bard sort of fellow, who taught them enough about music and juggling in order for them to be able to make enough money to survive, I would say. And Perrin acquired an odd ability to communicate with wolves, and Egwene found out that she also had one source power, which also does Nynaeve and also does Rand, because I guess he's our dragon. He's our dragon reborn. There's two instances that really bothered me in this book. Not really bothered me, but one of them was just a really funny way of saying things. It was in the first couple chapters where Rand described somebody in his head as, I guess a female would consider him attractive. I was like, that's a weird way of just saying a man's handsome. Like you can retain your full masculinity and your identity and just say a man's handsome. And I thought that was funny. I think after that, I don't think Robert Jordan wrote like that again, but I thought that was a really funny way to describe somebody. And then the other one is Nynaeve's sudden affection towards Ward, in which she basically asks him to marry her in one of the first real conversations that I actually saw them have. And that was really awkward. And I wish that if they were going to go in that route, I wish that if Robert Jordan was going to go in that route, he would have built a lot more significant interactions between those two characters to justify the kind of emotion they were feeling towards the end of this book. Lastly, this world seems to be comprised of duality, seemingly a yin-yang. Everything is doomed to repeat itself. I suspect, and please do not tell me, that there is a female equivalent to the dragon. Maybe the wyvern. And maybe that'll be how they stop history from repeating themselves. Because you can't just have the dragon keep on coming back. So I'm guessing that you need something more. So the dragon and the dragoness, or the dragon and the wyvern, if that makes any sense. The dragon and the phoenix, or whatever. I am enjoying my foray into the Wheel of Time. I have started book 2, and once I finish it, I will be putting it out. I also did a vlog while I was doing book 1, so I did it for every 100 pages, and that's coming out here soon, so you can kind of see my reactions as the plot unfolds. And if people like it, I'll do the same one for the second book, because I've already filmed a little bit of it anyways. I think this comes to the end of the review. So please let me know your thoughts and feelings below, whether you want to read The Wheel of Time while I am reading The Wheel of Time, because I wouldn't mind a couple buddies also reading The Wheel of Time with me, and that way we can react at the same time about whatever plots develop. So let me know if you want to read with me, and I will hit you up in the comments. I will hit you up in the comments. Anyways, that's it for me. Hasta luego, gentle viewers. Bye.